bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game.
Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. How you doing? How you doing? All right, Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Today is Monday, October 2nd. 275 days into the new year, just 90 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in downtown Burbank, California, and I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? All right. Tonight, very special guest back with us. Whitley Strieber is here. Now, what we're going to do tonight, we're going to talk about his book, The Supernatural. And a little bit later on, now I need you to sit down and understand what I'm saying here. We're also going to talk about a new book he has written with his wife, Anne. Now, think about that for a second. We're going to do that tonight. And also, I'm going to do my best to, get those experiences out of Whitley that he's never shared before in public. And you know that there's so much of it, and he's forgotten more than he has remembered. I am sure about that. And so that's what I'm here to do is to try to pull some of that out of Whitley. We'll be doing that a little bit later. Tomorrow night, Larry Holcomb is back with us, and we're going to discuss, there is his book about presidents and UFOs, but we've got some other news that we're going to be breaking tomorrow night, and he is really good at what he does. So you're going to have to dial in and wait for it tomorrow. It's going to be great. It's not going to be what you're thinking either. Wednesday night, James Gilliland is back. Now, over the weekend, some video was sent to us from James that was shot up at ESETI, and the thing by Ryan Wenner. And so we looked at the video, and it was pretty impressive. So that video, we immediately did an edit on, got it posted, and got it out there. And the view count, you know what's weird about it? I think the view count, it's at 60,000 views or something in a day, but a day and a half. I was expecting 1 million views out of that thing. It's that extraordinary. It's a crazy video. But also, a couple of more videos have been shot. So that is what we're going to be discussing Wednesday night. Not only Ryan's video, but some of the other things that have been going on up there over the last 7 days or so. And just ESETI is an extraordinary place. So that's what we're going to do on Wednesday night. James Gilliland will be here. Thursday night's going to be another Fader night with John Rappaport and his No More Fake Newsroom Live. Okay, now follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. You know what to do. Follow, like, and subscribe. Simple enough. And just go over to the website and click on it. The buttons that you need. The sandbox is hashtag F2B on Twitter. You can hang out there. There are 2 chat rooms you can hang out in too as well. Everything is interactive and real time, of course. This is a live radio show. And so we have chat rooms over at KGRA, The Planet. and Spreaker. Okay, so if you need to get to me or make any comments during the show or hang out and have conversations with our audience and the Fadernauts, there's 3 ways to do it. Okay, email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Okay, the LAPD reported earlier today that Tom Petty had died. And so the news media picked up on it, as they should, and I did the same thing. I went to the LAPD website and official feeds out to the media and saw that that's what they were releasing as a press release. So then I went to Wikipedia, right? And Wikipedia does this thing. It's amazing how fast that they update Wikipedia. LAPD makes the announcement. I had already posted up that he had had a heart attack last night and was on life support over at UCLA Santa Monica. Then my daughter Nicole posted right after that. Nicole's quick. And Nicole caught my eye. She said they've already taken him off of life support. So then I go back and I follow up, and sure enough, they had taken him off of life support. And then the announcement came that he had died. And I got that from the LAPD, and I thought, wow, that is quick. So I go to Wikipedia. Wikipedia already updated, and Wikipedia does this thing. They'll say so-and-so was a singer, a guitar player, an actor, a race car driver, whatever. That was already updated. I was like, wow, Wikipedia, really? So I go back, and Variety and CBS and Rolling Stone magazine and the LAPD, everybody was reporting that he died. So, and I went back to the LAPD, and I'm like, am I reading this right? Yes. Okay. All right. Wow. So I turn around and post that he had died. And it slowly came unraveled after that. Now, as of showtime tonight, Tom Petty is not on life support. He is clinging, right? He's still alive. There has not been anything official since 1:55 p.m. Pacific time today. Okay, now here we go. We're going to go through this show tonight. If you guys get any updates, let me know. I've got all of my news alerts on in here, and I've got, a TV on dialed into some mass media news network that if there is anything breaking, I'll catch it there too as well. So here we go. Let's ride this out and see if we can get through 3 hours. And you never know, man. You just never know. Let's just hope that everything works out for the best. For some of the news outlets out there to say, he's not expected to make it through the day, I thought, man, that's just harsh, man. Let the family ride this out, okay? And the media, an embarrassing day for the media. And now, of course, the country and Las Vegas rode through it last night and all day today. And it's this. We all know what happened. A shooter started shooting from the Mandalay Bay hotel room. His name is Stephen Paddock. He has been identified. He's been ID'd. He's dead. And Las Vegas police now, and this is all breaking right before the show, have now found 18 additional firearms, explosives, and thousands of rounds of ammunition in the home of the gunman, Stephen Paddock. 17 firearms were found in his Mandalay Bay hotel room. It was Paddock who opened fire last night in Las Vegas onto a crowd of concertgoers, killing 59 people, and is the deadliest shooting in modern U.S. history. But the story gets crazier and crazier and crazier. Starts with this. Mary Lou Danley, who was identified as Paddock's companion or roommate or girlfriend, whatever you want to call her, is conveniently in Tokyo and cannot be questioned. Okay? The first question I have is this. Did she know about the stockpile of weapons? What did she know? What didn't she know? The ammunition, the explosives. And if she did, why didn't she report it? Conveniently during the shooting over the weekend, she happens to be out of the country and cannot be questioned. So that's where the strange things just kind of start. I'll get to some more in just a bit. Okay? I don't... Look, tonight it's Whitley Strieber. That's what this show is about. This shooting in Las Vegas, a city that I have visited probably 100 times, that I enjoy, that we all enjoy, is going through a very, very, very tough place right now. And watching video of automatic gunfire spraying down onto a crowd of 30,000 people is a bit tough, even for me to watch, but for the rest of the country, over and over and over again. But I am puzzled with some elements of this case. So I'm going to talk about that now. As the week unfolds and we're able to get some more information, we can talk about it more. But in the spirit of not throwing off emotions and going into darkness, okay, I'm going to focus on other things when it comes to this shooter. Stephen Paddock, I just don't know what to make of it. Okay, so before I move on, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. We have over 700 archive shows there, 729 to be exact, are all there, $2 a month. Just go to the website, click on podcast, follow the instructions, $2 a month. You can also become a Fade or Not. Very simple. Go to our membership section on the website where you'll get the Bunker Cam commercial-free downloadable archives. You can even elevate yourself to hats and autographed hats and shirts and whatever. Okay? So go there now. And don't forget to visit all of our sponsors. Life Change Tea, GetTheTea.com, River Moon Coffee, New Pharma, Ancient Life Oil, Sacred Skulls. All the info that you need there are in the banners over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. All right? Let's just do the things that I want to do. All right? I want to say happy birthday today to Sting. He is 66. And also today, Rita's going to trip out on this because we were talking about this guy this weekend. And I had told her about how funny he, and today is his birthday. I don't even know if you've ever heard of him, right? His name is Brian Regan. Brian Regan, one of the funniest guys ever in all of comedy, today is 60 years old. Happy birthday, Brian. I am serious. And if you know who I'm talking about, if you checked out Brian, and he's still out there doing his thing, but if you checked him out back in the day, right? If you checked him out back in the day, one of the funniest guys ever. All right. There you go. I've seen him live so many times. Slipknot guitarist Jim Root today is 46. All right, on this day in history, OTD. In 1836, Darwin, as in Charles, returns to England, ending a 5-year surveying expedition, throughout the southern Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. And this information was the stuff that was used in his scientific work of 1859, The Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection. Yeah. On this day in 1836. All right. What was his boat called? The Snoopy? Right? Wasn't his boat called the Snoopy? Figure that out. Let's see who can pop that off in Twitter first. Fader fact. Tanning beds are banned in Australia. And that is a fader fact. All right. Tonight, Whitley Strieber is here. We're going to be talking about his new book, his latest book, The Super Natural. Now, the book itself is amazing, but it's what the book is about. Yeah, check out Brian. Thank you, Brandon. That's Brian Regan. Brian Regan's cool. I'm going to do that. Man, somebody send me Brian's Twitter. Let him know that we're talking about him today. We'll wish him happy birthday. Karen McIntyre. The Beagle. Oh, EJK, 1984. Eddie in Pennsylvania. Nicely done, The Beagle. You guys got that. I'm impressed. I am impressed. All right, and check this out. I hope you're impressed because that wasn't even in my show notes. No, that was right here. Are you impressed? Tim Paulman comes in with the HMS Beagle. All right, okay, I'll slow down. I thought I was the smart guy in the room. Apparently not. I should have known I was messing with the Fader knots. All right, couple of things. I'm going to get some insight going here for you because yesterday I was one of them, and so was Rita. millions of people took to Facebook, Twitter, Google early yesterday. Now, the shooting happened in Las Vegas. It started at around 10. We got notice of it it was quick, too, at about 10:15. And when we first got word of it, what did we do? Rita and I immediately grabbed our cell phones, our tablets, tuned the television because we were watching some DVR selections. And there was nothing on social media yet, nothing on the news, nothing about what was going down in Las Vegas. That took quite a bit for it to hit. So everybody did, though, right? Facebook lit up, Twitter, Google, way before the mainstream media, to find out what was happening. And Stephen Paddock, is open fire at the concert from the windows of the Mandalay Bay. And as it is done so frequently during all of these types of events, I think of Orlando and so forth, that the social media giants out there fed readers false or misleading information. And it was coming fast. Officials now have confirmed that 59 people were killed and 527 more were injured in that attack in Las Vegas, and that Paddock did not appear to have a political motive, right? Now think about this. But some users out there getting their information via digital platforms started to jump on a bunch of stories that were breaking when nobody knew anything. Nobody knew nothing, that he was a far-left activist, right? He was a far-right activist. You got both of that flying. Hatred for Donald Trump. Hatred for this, hatred for that. He was with ISIS. He had converted to Islam 3 months ago. Or, right? And all of it, whether right or wrong, today, last night, nobody knew anything. And Google, for several hours yesterday, surfaced a link to a thread on 4chan that claimed that Gary Danley, the ex-husband of Paddock's girlfriend, was the shooter. I mean, that turned out to be wrong. 4chan, that well-known hub for circulating fake information and conspiracy theories after mass shootings and other terror attacks. Nevertheless, it was promoted by Google News for users searching for Gary Danley, and an algorithmic error that the company says it plans to address. Within hours, the 4chan story was replaced by relevant results. This should not have appeared for any inquiries at all and will continue to make improvements. So this is all according to Google. Facebook's safety check feature, meanwhile, surfaced false information from flimsy sources such as altrightnews.blogspot.com, that right-wing fantasy site, gateway pundit, and spammy links were going out that were reportedly about the Las Vegas news story, and they were trying to trick people into donating to a Bitcoin wallet. Facebook told CNN that a link to the Gateway Pundit post was spotted and removed, but its removal was delayed by a few minutes. And this is according to CNN, so I don't even know what to buy there. YouTube, which is owned by Google, still does not appear to be monitoring or de-ranking videos with misleading or false claims. As of right up to showtime tonight, there's a video calling the Las Vegas shooter, Stephen Paddock, an anti-Trump far-left activist, was the number 2 search result for Stephen Paddock on YouTube. Right? Now think about this. There is no policing, there is no monitoring for fake news. And here we have this going on out there where we are starving for the real information about what's going on, and we're not getting anything. Twitter, which relies mostly on raw feed instead of any algorithms at all to give its users content, serves as that overall point for fake news during a crisis, because it all pops through there. It's completely unfiltered. Accounts falsely claim that comedian Sam Hyde was behind the attack, and that happens every time something like this happens. Or a soccer star, porn star Johnny Sins was amongst the victims. And as documented by BuzzFeed, right, we are reviewing and removing content that violates our rules, both proactively and through reports, said a Twitter spokesperson. And in recent years, these social media hoaxes have routinely followed in the immediate wake of these types of shootings. Sandy Hook, San Bernardino, Paris, Nice, right? And now we have it going on in Las Vegas. Think about this for a second. Tech companies have vowed to tackle all of this and to stop the spread of false and misleading breaking news. So far, in my opinion, Silicon Valley has yet to make any progress at all, because here it goes right now in Las Vegas, and boom, everything is kicking off. RT this afternoon went with this headline, the headline story, the headline that ISIS claims the Las Vegas shooting. Now, we can pump the brakes here for a second. It said that in the article that ISIS was claiming that Stephen Paddock converted to Islam 3 months ago. Now, even if ISIS said this, right, which they probably did, why is it news? Why is it news? We don't know. Man. Okay. Anyway, I don't know why my phone is up and live. It shouldn't be, but no, it's off. Okay. I don't know why it's going off. I apologize for that. Why is it news? Why is it news? Who is vetting this story? Right? And if you are vetting this story, you know that it's just ISIS making some claims. You can assume that, right? Maybe he did convert to Islam 3 months ago and nobody knew. Maybe. It's possible. Filipino girlfriend. ISIS is making inroads in the Philippines. Maybe there's a possibility. Is there a connection? I doubt it. But what I am saying here is, if you are vetting this, chill out on that. You don't need to publish this story, and you don't, if you choose to publish it, and if you think it is news, don't make it your headline. People read the headline. They don't go back and necessarily read the story. Think about that, right? Once you read the full article in RT, which I took the time to do, you see that it's totally misleading. You go ahead and you read the article and it says that, okay, well, ISIS is making this claim, or ISIS said this. He has no religious affiliation. We have looked into this. That's the body of the story. It's not the headline. To me, the headline should have just read, ISIS tries to claim Las Vegas shooting. But that ain't going to get you clicks, is it? And that's where we are at with the news today. The background behind this guy, Paddock, is turning out to be a mystery. And you would think that today, your background, everything about you is out there in the public, right? The Patriot Act made sure of that. We have no rights anymore. But this guy, Paddock, apparently, no contact with the police. Nobody even knows who he is. He's got 2 photographs online, one old, one new. The new one's got his eyes closed. He's never had a parking ticket, a speeding ticket, no contact with the law, no DWIs, no debts with the casinos. He's a professional gambler. He's got nobody mad at him. He's by all means just an invisible person. He's not angry. He's got no political things. He's not posting on social media. He's not claiming that he's pissed off at somebody and he's doing this because he's angry at this person or this group or this thing or this action, right? There's nothing there. There's an ex-wife he hasn't talked to in years. So it's not her. It's not anything, right? So, and with this guy, this invisible guy, apparently now he was able to acquire, by last count, 35 weapons, an arsenal, ammunition, explosives, and nobody knows anything, anywhere, no neighbor, no nothing. He is able to get these weapons into the Mandalay Bay and nobody see. Do you know what kind of security is at a casino? You can't do anything in a casino. You can't. You know what you can do in a casino that nobody will bother you about? You can drink free drinks and pump quarters into a slot machine. That's what you're allowed to do. You step out of line and do anything else but that, you got somebody coming up and asking you what you're doing there, right? And this guy is able to, the valet. How about housekeeping? He checked in there on the 28th. He did the shooting on the 1st. So he had 3 days there. 3 days. Housekeeping isn't going into his room, and they don't see 18 automatic weapons or ammunition or clips or sights or night vision or tripods or where did he hide all of this stuff in the hotel room? Under the bed? I don't understand any of this. Now, the other thing, and this is for real, and I don't understand why the media isn't talking about this, why the police aren't talking about this. Vegas, out of any city, even more so than London, Vegas, out of any city in the entire world, videotapes everything. Everything. Every street corner, every block, every room, every store, every restaurant, every you can't go anywhere in Vegas. You cannot. And they don't know they don't know absolutely nothing. I am blown away by this. How on the 32nd floor of that building, listen to me for a second, that somebody on the 32nd floor didn't pick up the phone and go, man, I'm hearing machine gun fire coming from the room next door. I'm hearing machine gun fire coming from across the hall. And security didn't rush right up there and kick that door down right. They had to go find this guy in Las Vegas. You know, seeing that one video clip. Well, we're on the 31st floor. We hear some machine gun fire coming from up. What do you mean? How is that possible? They've got video cameras. Go down a hallway in Vegas at the Mandalay Bay. There's video cameras all the way down the hallway. All the way. What? It's mind-blowing. It's very, very strange. Nobody knew anything. And then, okay, I got to go. I got to get Whitley in here. But this is the other thing. No suicide, no nothing, no paper trail. And he kills 59 people, you know, as horrific as that is, but then he shoots himself. He didn't even get to live, and nobody knows why he did it. I'm confused. I need some answers here. And this is when we need the media to step up and do some honest reporting. And we'll never get it. But if we've ever needed it, now's the time. I will do the best that I can. It's just strange. And with that, man, I'm almost out of time. I got to get out of here. I got to get Whitley in here. It's Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Whitley Strieber. We're going to be talking about his book, The Super Natural. I'll be right back with Whitley. Stay right there.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black Blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hi, folks. Let's wind the clocks back 60 years. Food was different. Food provided health and nutrition, and using supplements was minimal. Unfortunately, now we have chemicals, GMOs, herbicides, and pesticides that can be quite lethal in the name of our food supply, and, of course, the ever-loving dollar. Supplementing our diets can be very important to stay healthy. Cleansing from daily intruders to the body might be critical. Live strong and take charge. Log on to getthetea.com. Our herbal tea is a great way to cleanse from intruders. Our supplements is a great way to maintain and improve your health. When your health is not up to par, go to getthetea.com. No GMOs, no fillers, and organic, and very helpful in keeping you at the top of your game. Life is too short to feel, you know what I mean. Stay in the game, at the top of your game with getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Again, getthetea.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Win big with KGRA this summer. Tickets and hotel accommodations to the biggest conferences, autographed books and DVDs, chances to win all-inclusive conference cruises, and private dinners with your favorite KGRA hosts. Click the contest tab at kgraradio.com for your chance to win big this summer. Your contact for the best alternative talk radio on the planet. kgraradio.com.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. On the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I want to remind everybody about the great week that we've got set up, dead ahead. Tonight, Whitley Strieber. Tomorrow night, Larry Holcomb is going to be here. And Wednesday night, James Gilliland is going to be talking about the recent videos that we have been posting from ESETI Ranch. And then, of course, Thursday night is Fader Night with John Rappaport and his No More Fake Newsroom Live and open lines all night long. But tonight, it's Whitley. Whitley Strieber, the author of Communion and the entire series of books and many novels ranging from the Wolfen and the Hunger to the Greys and, of course, the Alien Hunter series. Communion, the Wolfen, the Hunger, and Superstorm have all been made into movies. Superstorm as The Day After Tomorrow. And, you know, I'm going to ask Whitley about this. You know, Superstorm and then what's going on right now with the weather is a pretty prophetic book. I wonder if he even understood its importance today. He is a Texan, and The Secret School has been listed by the Texas Monthly among the top 10 books ever written by a Texan. Alien Hunter has been made into a TV series over on the SyFy Channel. But tonight we're going to talk about Supernatural, a new vision of the unexplained. And it's his latest book written with Professor Jeffrey Kripal, and it redefines the meaning of the close encounter and the UFO phenomena, and has been called the most important book on the paranormal in the last 40 years, and that was by author Gary Jansen. Tonight, we're going to cover Supernatural, Whitley's book, but also another book that he has written. We're going to talk about this later on tonight with his wife, Anne. Now, what that means, I can't wait to hear this from Whitley. And if I get the chance tonight, I will do what I always do with Whitley, and I'm going to try to pry some of those private experiences out of him that he's never shared publicly. I'll give it my best shot. Whitley, welcome back to Fade to Black. How are you? Whitley, are you there? Oh, Whitley. I do not have Whitley. We just sound checked. Maybe he took a break. Whitley, are you there? Okay. Wow, that's strange. Let me reset. Whitley, are you there? Okay, I'm going to do this live. Are you there? We'll send him a quick text. Oh, yeah, he is there. He is not there. I heard that in the background. Okay. Wow. I will just sit here and wait for Whitley then. Whitley. Okay, I hear him stirring in the background. I wonder, you know what? Let's have fun. Let's do this. Call him on his cell phone. There goes his cell phone.
Hello?
Hey, Whitley, we're live on the air.
Okay, well,
we can hear you, Whitley. Oh, that is strange. Hey, Whitley, we're live on the air.
I know, something's wrong.
Yeah, that's strange.
Yeah, well, it's not strange.
Oh, okay. Now that disconnect. Wow, this is bizarre. Now I'm having fun. Okay, that's cool. Hey, Whitley, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you, and I'm
taking you back.
Okay, here we go. This is fun. You know what? I haven't. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, now
can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I got you. Can I still hear you? No. When I hang up your cell phone, it hangs up the other direct connection that we have. Okay, I can hear you, Whitley.
Okay, I can barely hear you.
Okay.
Jimmy, I've had a lot of trouble. Right now, I'm just at this moment dealing with an invasion of my bank accounts. My site has been under attack for weeks, and I think someone is just after me in a major way. And it feels like a state player, to tell you the truth, because it's just so powerful.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear me or not right now. I can barely hear you.
We can hear you loud and clear. But what was strange, Whitley, is that when it would only connect if I was calling you on your cell phone, which is a separate, as you and I both know, a separate line altogether.
That's right, a separate line altogether.
And wow. Okay, well, you want to take a few minutes and sit down and talk with us, or do you have to go and deal with this emergency?
What I want to do is get a set of headphones in hopes that I'll be able to hear you. It'll take me 1 minute.
Okay. All right. Well, why don't you go and do that? I'll mute you and then just come back and talk to me. Very strange what is going on right now. Wow. And, I know Whitley pretty well. We have a lot of conversations and privately. And he's a very calm, cool, and collected and together guy. To hear that in his voice right now, I know that, are you there?
Yes.
Okay.
Things came up, but now I have a severe echo.
Okay. Well, you don't have an echo on my end. So
if we're good on your end, I've lived through a lot of echoes in my life, and it's not going to bother me. Okay. So let's go.
What I was just saying to the audience, Whitley, is you and I talk a lot off the air, and you are always in control. You're very calm, cool, collected, and insightful. And for me to hear this panic in your voice right now, it just tells me that something's going on, and you just never know. This world is a strange place, but then when you go into the next version of the world, which is our world, right, it just gets stranger. And
yeah, well, like, for example, 5 minutes ago, all the cards I had in Apple Pay were deactivated. And there is no way that can happen unless it is done. It is not something that simply pops up.
Right.
Somebody just did it just a few minutes ago. And I've changed passwords. It's all I can do.
Right.
But these days with this crazy, like, Equifax hack and everything, I have LifeLock. So at least I am pretty sure that no one's going to try to steal my credit. But things like this are going to just start happening to people. somebody probably saw the name Whitley Strieber and thought, oh, I'm going to screw with that guy. That's a famous name.
Right.
And started screwing with me. Or it could be a state player because of the way the things that are happening on my website. Like we have our streams run off of a service, not directly off of our own servers. And what has been happening is the streams keep stopping. And the reason is it turns out somebody has put a script on their server, on the services server, that puts a pixel, maybe 2 pixels, between 2 parts of the file name of the audio file, meaning it stops.
That's all it takes.
Yeah, that's all it takes. And if you replace it, 10 minutes later, it happens again. So I've got the streams running off of the latest program running off of a hidden server now. And I don't know what to do with this, because so far the streaming service has said they simply can't figure out how it's being done.
Yeah,
but that's not that, plus the degradation of my website, where they screwed with the advertising section, they screwed with the store section. They tried to screw with the subscriber section, but you can't, because all of the data is kept in a vault run by a company that's only job is to keep it safe.
Right.
So they could not succeed in. But it's just endless screwing and degradation. And let me tell you something. It's the same kind of thing that state players do to entities they don't like. Like the Americans will be doing this to terrorist websites, where they're asking for donations and stuff like that, or have radio podcasts and things.
Right.
And the Russians do it too. A lot of people do it. We do know that a lot of the initial attacks on unknowncountry.com emanated from Pakistan. And there's, of course, a big intelligence service with an excellent cyber warfare unit in Pakistani intelligence, which will answer to requests from British or American intelligence. So I have no idea if that was involved or not. And if it was involved, then it is almost certainly not official. It's something somebody's doing kind of on the side, because, there's this schism going on between the intelligence community and the administration, and people are kind of turning into, some people might be just cowboying it out there and just tormenting me because, they don't like me very much, and it's fun.
And this is what we do. I'm not going to go into a bunch of detail on this because it would take too much time, but this is what we do. We have redundant systems. We have our own dedicated servers. That's the first thing. Second, we have a second set of dedicated servers at a separate location. Third, we have a backup system where everything cranks down to another level of thousands of servers that the data is spread across. All of this is on different rings of the internet, okay? Now, what that allows us to do, our passwords are in a separate location. There is nothing on my person. I run 5 computers for this show. There is nothing about this show that is on these computers. There's nothing here. There's no passwords. There's nothing. There's no data. There's no email. There's no subscriber base. There's no personal information. There's nothing is done here. So if they came to me, they would find nothing. They would have to locate around the country the different. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I get what you mean.
And it's expensive, but it allows us to have this redundancy, and nobody's got the passwords. Nobody's got them, right? Nobody's got them.
I'm not going to tell you say aloud exactly what we do, but it's similar.
You have to these days.
And I warn you that people can get past this. You'd be amazed.
I know. We're not. We've only done the best that we can do. That's it.
It's all any of us can do. But why us? I can think of I can think of lots of people who are more deserving of this kind of BS than we are.
Well, this is how I find comfort, right? That's the only way I can do it, is that we matter. That's why.
I think we might matter a lot more than...
That is the truth, Whitley.
Yeah, I think we might than they will ever say.
And look, if they stopped messing with you, that's when you have to step back and go, well, I'm doing something wrong.
What am I doing wrong?
Right?
Yeah, that's for sure.
and that's how I find comfort.
If you think I'm not telling the truth, believe me, I'm being messed with enough to prove that I am.
Right. Oh man! Now I've got the old Whitley back. There we go. Okay,
that's right.
So let's actually do this. I want to start the conversation here. There might be somebody in the United States that has not read Communion. I know it sounds strange, right? I know it's a stretch. But let's kind of start there for the audience that may not be familiar with everything else as we connect the dots tonight through the supernatural. What happened in your life that caused you to write Communion? Let's start right there.
Okay, let's go back to a time shortly after the fall of the Roman Empire when I was a young man.
Right. Before electricity, right.
I had, as my friends have many times reminded me, utter contempt for any kind of UFO stuff that people might talk about. I was a novelist. I had written some literary novels, some horror novels. I had a couple of movies made from a couple of my books. I was flying pretty high. I had my book War Day had been read on the floor of the United States Senate, and it was I was a well-respected writer. We bought a little cabin in upstate New York, about 90 miles north of Manhattan. Behind the cabin, there was a 15-mile open country area of state land. The cabin was in a little area with 6 or 7 other similar cabins. Very wonderful, isolated little place to go and relax and be outside of the hurly-burly of the city and the dangers. Back in those days, New York was a lot more dangerous than it is now.
Right.
So, you felt it on the streets at night. And we lived in the village, and it was pretty loud and noisy on weekends. And so we were really enjoying this, except for one problem. I was scared to death. I bought a shotgun. I bought a pistol. I spent all one night installing an alarm system. I patrolled the place with the shotgun. I sat outside my little boy's room. He was a little 7-year-old at the time, with the shotgun. I would worry about my wife and go up and check on her and come back down again. And she said, Whitley, this is the most unrelaxing experience I can remember having in my life, married or unmarried. You're terrified out here. Do you know why? And she had checked, there have been no crimes whatsoever committed in this community in 22 years. 22 years ago, there may have been a robbery. No one's actually sure it was a robbery. So the statistics are definitely against the shotgun. So what's going on? I was sick with fear, Jimmy. Then, one night, right after Christmas, I woke up at first I thought I was in the woods, and it was snowy, and there were these strange beings around me, that people in body suits with helmets on that covered their eyes and nose, and there was a guy there who I knew. And the next thing I know, I'm in this little room. I went up in the air, but I didn't remember that. And I went through a hell of an experience in that room. I got raped is what happened to me. And, everyone who remembers these stories remembers that the media picked up almost exclusively on the idea of the rectal probe,
right?
Which I very delicately described it in my book so as not to offend anybody. That's the way I chose to describe it. And I turned out to be the one person who became not just treated with contempt for being raped, but treated as a national and international laughing stock for having that happen to me. And that was hard. That was very hard. Anyway, there was an unbelievably intense experience that night. That they put something in the side of my head. I was terrified beyond words because I kept trying to wake up. And it didn't help. I did not wake up. I was awake. But how could this be? How could I be in this place with these creatures? They were tall, willowy ones with great big black eyes like you see on the cover of the old editions of Communion. And there were these short, dark blue figures with low, gravelly voices who were kind of helping them. And I was just at a loss. The next morning, I woke up and I thought to myself, I got the eeriest feeling. And I said to my wife at breakfast, you know, an owl got in the house last night. I was thinking of those big eyes, of course.
Right.
She said, oh, really? How would that happen since the house, among other things, was closed up tight and had no chimney? I said, well, I don't know. But it flew around in the house. And that was a screen memory of the event. Then evening fell, and as it began to get dark, a bone-chilling terror came over me. And I thought to myself, that owl stood on the sill of the window in the back of our bedroom. I saw it. And I went up there and I looked at that sill, and there'd been no new snow, and there was no footprints on it of any kind of bird at all. And at that moment, I realized something awful had happened to me. It didn't occur to me that anything like aliens or anything like that never even crossed my mind. I thought to myself, I had some kind of a psychotic break. I've got a baby and a kid and a wife.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to, if I end up in that state, unable to get out of it in some kind of home.
Yeah, unraveled completely.
Unraveled.
Right.
What happens to her? Because she can't divorce me in those days in New York State for years. She's trapped. So I really thought to myself, maybe you better blow your damn brains out, you moron. But then I thought, well, maybe you better go to the doctor. So I hied out to the doctor first thing in the next couple of days. I told him what I remembered, and he says to me, Whitley, it sounds like you're telling me you were taken aboard a flying saucer by little men. And I said, holy God, it does.
Right.
I must sound like an idiot. He said, well, yeah, that would be one way of describing it. But I'm thinking psychiatrist, and I'm thinking MRI just to be sure we're not looking at a brain problem. And I said, well, you know, my butt hurts. He said, let me take a look. He says, I am sorry to tell you this, Mr. Strieber, but you've been raped. You've got contusions characteristic of a very rough anal intrusion. I nearly threw up because, man, it was all real. That is part of the story I never used to tell, never.
Right.
It took 30 years, 25 years, even to say the words, I was raped, to my wife.
Yeah, yeah.
To my wife. And I sat there on one show after another, listening to him, laughing at me. You know, you could get bitter, but I'm not that type of guy. Anyway.
Well, you know, and you, I can't imagine, because a lot of us deal with when you're at a certain part of the public eye we all deal with the critics, the skeptics, the jokes, the laugh, the whatever, the lies, and I've been through it. But I can't imagine going through what you went through, and it was. Everybody thought, well, though not everybody, but those out there thought that cracking jokes about it was funny. And they don't understand that there's actually somebody at the other end of this, and it's not cool. And you wrote it out, and you are one of the smartest, most intelligent, bright-eyed people that I know. We've sat next to each other and looked right into each other's eyes. You're here. You're together today. But you're absolutely right. That had to have been a rough period to go through, and it's not cool.
No, it was not cool. It was, well, the next step, though, was, I remembered the guy who was there. I remembered him because we had gone to high school and college together, and I knew him. I mean, I'd talked to him 2 years before. He had joined the Central Intelligence Agency. And, when he was active CIA, we didn't hear much from him. But then after he got out of it, we talked quite a bit, actually. The friendship sort of started up again, although he didn't talk anything about his involvement. But I remembered what he said when he was in that circle of these beings in the woods. He talked about the stealth bomber and fighter having defective exhaust manifolds and that the planes were going to catch fire. Now, this is when these things were so secret, they weren't even being mentioned in the press.
Nobody knew.
Nobody knew. I didn't even know what he was talking about.
Right.
Now, but I did think to myself this. I wrote a book called War Day. I just referred to it a few minutes ago, I think. This book had pissed off certain powerful people in the government for various reasons. I won't even go into it. It's too complicated. And I thought to myself, I had been warned by a staff member of one of the senators that there could be some dirty tricks, which I would have thought would have been a hostile tax audit, political tax audit, which in those days were just ordinary course of business.
Sure.
I don't think they're as common now as they used to be, but they were just ordinary in those days. So that was what I was kind of expecting. But I thought to myself, he's a CIA guy. I had all this weird stuff happen. Do you suppose they gave me some kind of drugs to try to drive me crazy? Is this the dirty trick?
Right. So
my brain was clear. I then took a test for temporal lobe epilepsy. That turned out to be clear. So what could it have been? I finally ended up.
We need to take a break right here, Whitley. So we'll pick up where we are leaving off. But I'll say this: my vote is I would have invited epilepsy. That would have.
Me too. I would have loved it.
Exactly.
What a relief.
What a relief. Let's take a break here. I know.
I'm relieved.
We can do something about this. Yeah, exactly. Our guest tonight, Whitley Strieber. We're going to be discussing his book, Super Natural. Right now, we're leading up to that and going to connect some dots. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. More with Whitley right after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Ancient Life Oil. Life-changing. The real oil. CBD is truly Ancient Life Oil from the source. This oil has no psychoactive effect and is also legal in all 50 states. When you're healthy, you're happy. The truth about this wonderful plant is that it wants to give back to mankind life, longevity, and happiness. Ancient Life Oil are golden grade, all organic, non-GMO, and infused with high-quality liquid coconut oil. It's simple. Just go to ancientlifeoil.com today. That's ancientlifeoil.com. The best, purest, organic, and non-GMO CBD in the world. Go Beckley Tappy. The statements made regarding these products have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Please consult your healthcare professional about potential interactions or other possible complications before using any product. What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129 and use the promo code JCRTWS and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tappy.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Whitley Strieber. We're talking about, and leading up to, his latest book, Super Natural. It's an amazing, amazing book. Now, check out, this portion of the show is brought to you by Life Change Tea. Just go right now, click on the banners over at jimmychurchradio.com for Life Change Tea. Use the promo code FADER, F-A-D-E-R. Okay, Whitley, so let's go back to where we left off right there. Stealth bombers, leaking of information, publishing, or starting to get this information out there is where we left off.
Yeah. Where we left off was I was thinking that this guy might have been involved in a dirty trick being played on me. And I thought to myself, I'm going to go after this because this is bad stuff, and I'm going to sue the United States government if I can find him. And I was pretty sure I knew his brother. I knew his whole family. So I couldn't get him. I called him on his phone. It was disconnected. And I thought, I'm getting there.
Right.
And I called his brother. His brother said, but he's been dead for 6 months. He was dead since last March, and longer than 6 months. I said, he's dead. He said, yeah, he's dead. And I thought, of course, it's a subterfuge. It's a lie. He's gone deep and dark. But I never could go any farther. I could not find him at all. He had a death certificate. Everything looked completely normal, as it would, even if he wasn't dead, if professionals were working on it. So I had to leave it go. But then I began to realize, I read a book by Jenny Randles that seemed to have a description of a similar experience in it. Someone else had. And the book came to me in a really odd way. My brother had been shopping for a Christmas present for me and had seen the book in a bookstore in San Antonio, Texas, and thought, this is interesting. It was interesting to him. It wouldn't have been interesting to me, but we're never good. We're never been good at giving each other Christmas presents. He gave me a tarantula one year, give you an idea of how effective. present person he is. Anyway,
right.
He found the book. He took it up to buy it, and it wasn't from the bookstore. It wasn't even from the United States. It was an English book, and they finally sold it to him for $5. It's because they didn't have any. It wasn't in their inventory, and he sent it to me. So it had kind of been put there, almost like it was there for him, and it ends up in my hands. And then I read this, and I think to myself, well, it mentions this guy, Bud Hopkins. And so I called Hopkins up. He lived down this, not far from me in Manhattan. I met him, and he said, well, I want to put you under hypnosis because I think you've been abducted by aliens. And I thought, oh boy, I have gone to the wrong house here.
Right, right.
And I said, we'll wait on that. He said, well, wait a minute. I know a psychiatrist, very prestigious. I'd asked him if he had a license to hypnotize. And he said no. And he said very prestigious. He's the head of the New York State Department of Psychiatry. And there's no internet then, so I couldn't really look him up. But I did find out that he was the real deal. And I met him. He was a very professional guy, obviously been in the field for years, a very skilled man. He had solved at that point in his life, over 70 cases using forensic hypnosis. So don't ever let anyone tell you hypnosis doesn't work. In the right hands, with the right kind of pro, it sure does work.
Absolutely.
So he put me under hypnosis. And I am telling you, I understood then why I had been so scared the previous months, because these things had been coming in the house, and I was seeing them, but not remembering it. But under hypnosis, I did remember it. And I think it's somewhere on my website, probably in the subscriber area of Unknown Country, you can listen to these original sessions. And the first session is just mostly a guy screaming, which was me. Because I was seeing this thing, this dark blue, weird thing in my bedroom. And I was having absolute hysterics under hypnosis. Then we get to the next experience. And it all comes like a movie. It's so clear, every bit of it. And I thought to myself, well, something has happened here. I told my wife the whole story, and Anne says, well, why don't you write it down? Write it all down, just the way it is. So I started writing, and it turned into the book Communion. And we published it. We thought it would, make some minor waves. We didn't realize what would actually happen.
Right. Little income, just another, you're an author. That's what you do, right?
The waves were big.
Right.
And they were so big, in fact, that letters by the tens and hundreds of thousands began pouring into the house, and they poured in for 10 years. Those letters, which are one of the great collections of human experience ever assembled in the world, were all assembled by my wife. Many of them were cataloged until she had approximately 30,000 that were full and complete descriptions of experiences. One day she walks out of her office and she says to me, Whitley, this has something to do with what we call death. I said, what are you talking about? Because I was totally bought into the alien hypothesis then.
We all were.
Yeah.
Right.
And so she says, fully half of these people describe dead friends and relatives showing up along with these aliens. And I thought, my God, the guy was dead that night. He was a dead man, and he appeared to be completely alive. I said no more about it, but then she says a few weeks later, she was like just really in control. I mean, when I told her this happened to me, she never missed a beat. She had this, let's get to it, we've got work to do now attitude, like she was ready to go. She was cataloging these letters. She was inundated. I mean, there's like heaps of them in the living room. And she says to me one day, I need a secretary. I thought to myself, one, she needs 10. But the way Ann worked, one would be fine. I mean, and she says, I need a secretary. And I said, well, we'll call Manpower. And she says, no, I'll find one here. A few minutes later, she says, here's our secretary. And she hands me one of the letters. It's from a lady who's talking about being a singer and and stuff and an actress. I said, she's not a secretary. She says, oh, yes, she is. And the important thing is she lives right across the street. So she calls her. And I hear her say, do you have any secretarial skills? Oh, good. Great. Are you working? Great. Come right over. We need to get started today. And that was how we met Laurie Barnes, who was Ann's secretary for 15 years.
Yeah, your photograph collection of those early days. Thank goodness you had somebody was taking pictures.
Ann knew what to do. And then she says, we're going to get people coming up to the cabin because these beings are going to show up when people are there. And we started doing that. And this is typical. In the living room, lying asleep, a magazine editor, I believe a lady called Raven Dana. I'm not sure about the names anymore. I've got that all in my books, though. It's all. And anyway, there are about 4 people in the living room, 2 people downstairs in the basement sleeping privately because they're a couple. When these dark blue figures show up in the living room in the dead of the night and start jumping around like acrobats, and the people in the living room can talk, but they cannot move a muscle. They're frozen. So they're like just talking to each other. Do you see what I see, et cetera, and so forth. Meanwhile, in the basement, the 2 people wake up in the bed, and they see standing at the foot of the bed a friend of theirs who had died in the 1985 Mexico City earthquake, standing there big as life. And she says, I'm okay. I just wanted to tell you. The dead had showed up with the visitors. This happened and happened and happened. It changed my complete, total life and way of thinking about everything, from knowing pretty well what the hell's going on in this world to knowing pretty well that I don't know one damn thing about what's going on in this world.
That's right. That's right. And I've always wanted to ask you, as you started to make this transition from an ET type of hypothesis, right, to the other side, to something that is a little more earthbound, I should say, even though it's supernatural, right?
Well,
How long?
There is no supernatural. I mean, there's nature that we understand and nature that we don't understand.
Right. I guess the question is, how long did it take you for that transition? Because when I started to hear you speak about it and write about it over the years, I went through that transition with you, but that was the written version. Are you talking about it? But let's back up. How long did it take you to start to realize what was really going on?
Well, I don't think to this day I have realized what is really going on, and I wouldn't discount the alien hypothesis. But there's something else involved. It's not that simple. It's not that some people got in flying saucers, funny-looking people got in flying saucers on Zeta Reticuli,
right, and
came here.
Right.
Whoever they were, if that's where they came from, they have a very different way of living than we do, believe you me. And they are a completely different species of being. They're not just weird-looking. They are weird. But I also think that they've been here a very long time. One of the best researchers in this field, Jacques Vallée, has combed the historical record and written a couple of books about detailing cases from the past. And this dovetails into the old fairy lore of Northern Europe and all kinds of different stuff from all over the world. The whole Kachina mythology among the Hopis and other Native Americans. Native American people who don't scoff at this, and plenty of them do, but the ones who don't scoff at it have these star people traditions in their tribes, which is why they don't scoff at it. But it's something that is part of our world. And it's not all pretty by any means either.
No.
In fact, it's anything but for the most part.
The first time I heard you start to put together the blue beings and speaking about them, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I had a hard time sleeping for a while because it made sense. You know what I mean? It was like, well, that explains an awful lot here. And if it does explain what I think it's explaining, I'm terrified. This is something that is not in our control. No, it's not in our control exactly, but it's very much more reflective than people realize. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've got them in my life right now. I've been dealing with them for 30 years, and I don't have the kind of relationship I did with them at first. They were really, really hard to deal with. I mean, really hard to deal with. I became obsessed with them. And when I realized there was a them there, and started going out in the woods in the middle of the night and walking way out in the woods behind my house to this little cave that you could only reach by going down a cliff, and it was really hard to reach, and going and sitting in that cave. Nobody could hear me. Nobody could get near me. I was absolutely alone, and I would turn out the light, scared to death, and just live with it. I lived it. I lived the fear. And that's what gradually changed the relationship. It became a school. Right.
They began respecting me a little bit, I think. They started teaching me. And that's what most of the books have been about ever since.
Is there also, did you have to develop a sense of when you were being fed reality or truth, and possibly some of it was deception and fun and joking? Tricksters, if you will.
Well, I would not describe them as having like a light sense of humor. You're not going to get any Stephen Colbert or Saturday Night Live from them. It's more like, a sledgehammer wit. Put it that way. But it is to a degree there. I can't say it's not. They feel like to me like prison guards almost. They're making sure that we don't get too big for our britches. We're supposed to be in this state as far as they're concerned, living in the stream of time, not knowing the future, and we're here to learn and we're here to build strong souls. And as far as they're concerned, they're obviously paying for it, or it's a hard thing to do, and we're going to do it and do it right. That's the way I see it.
How old do you see the knowledge? Is it as old as Earth, or is it as old as the universe? Where is it coming from, the foundation?
Oh, Jimmy, that's one of those little questions you have a habit of dropping in unexpectedly, that they're not big. I mean, that would be the biggest question I've ever been asked, and the one I am probably least able to answer in a sane and comprehensible way. They are part of the texture of reality, of consciousness, just like we are.
Right.
And maybe they go back a long way.
Right. I had said the other night on the show, and I wanted the audience to grasp this thought, and it's a difficult thought, Whitley. Our universe, whatever, 12, 14, 15 billion years old, I put the big whatever on that, because the universal intelligence behind that creation its age is forever. Forever. right? Think about that for a second. Forever.
Forever. Yeah.
Before our universe, there was another one. And we are talking about infinite in all directions, up, down, in the future, in the past. It is forever. And it's a difficult thing to think about. And when we are talking about some of the phenomena on this planet that we don't understand, this is a universal intelligence that is connected, just like we are, that goes back, possibly forever. Therefore, the intelligence that is accumulated over forever is something that we just can't wrap our mind around, can we?
You know what I would say to that? I think it would be awful.
Right.
To be trapped in the forever.
Right. And that's what is, how far back is forever? Well, right? And quite possibly that is what we are dealing with. And it's hard. It's really hard to try to grasp that concept. But universal intelligence, something that we don't understand, has been getting smarter forever. Right, the accumulated, yes, the accumulated,
and
knowledge.
We're not dumb either. It's a great mistake to think that they are kind of smarter than we are. I think they're a lot more experienced, and my impression is that some of them aren't fully biological. Some of them are like we probably will be in about 3 years if Elon Musk gets the computer into the brain. On the one hand, he's talks about the danger of artificial intelligence. On the other hand, he and so many other companies are working full bore to get data processing and interaction directly into the brain. And some of them, well, like I'll tell you one time, I had been going down in these woods, and I had been communicating with them. Not in a way that you would think was communication. It felt like I was just sort of imagining and thinking. But then all of a sudden, one morning, something started to happen that I had agreed to do in this way. There was this sound like a chauffeur, a deep trumpet noise sounded out over the woods early one February morning, just before dawn. And I thought, my goodness, it's them. I jumped out of bed, put on my robe, put on my slippers. I had nice, thick slippers, fortunately. And I went out there. I went down my deck, across my backyard in the snow, up a little hill, and then there was a naked woods there. Beyond the woods was the clearing where I had first met them, first been taken up. And I could see a big shadowy thing in that clearing, and some figures, and I could hear a kind of clanking noise, which is the sound their machines make when they're just sort of idling. Like it sounds like ball bearing is kind of clattering. And I stopped because I thought, if I go down there and I never come back, then she's got to wait 7 years for the insurance money, and she's not good. I can't take that risk with my wife and my baby asleep in the house behind me. And anyway, what if they're planning to outflank me or something and get in there with them? So I decided I would not go down there. And then I heard this voice say, "Come on, come on." And it was the voice of a really tough, rough kind of a soldier. It was a scary voice, but they weren't going to capture me. I had to go to them, obviously. So I turn around, I go back to the house, and as I put my hand on the doorknob, I hear 3 cries from above those woods. Oh, 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 cries of disappointment, but they were so perfectly spaced. You cannot imagine how they sounded. They were emotionally incredibly rich. The most emotional sounds I'd ever heard, and the most perfect, most machine-like sounds I'd ever heard. So you get that all mixed up. You've got biology and machine there.
Right.
That was what that was. It was so intense, that experience, that I could not even listen to music for about a year after that and enjoy it because it all sounded muddy. Because that sound was so perfect.
Yes. Was it done just for you? You know what I mean? In its perfection, knowing that it would affect you? I
don't know. I know. I can tell you what I heard. I can't tell you any whys.
Right.
But I can tell you what happened next. I go into the house. I go back up into the bedroom. And there is something in there with me that I cannot see, but I knew was there. The next thing I know, I'm sitting on the side of the bed. I'm suddenly walking, like almost gliding among these tall, sort of stick-thin pillars. What the hell just happened to me? And then I saw I was looking up at my mother's desk. I was in her bedroom in about 1946 or 47, just when I was starting to walk. They had sent me back in time to the first moment I ever walked on 2 feet, as if to say, this is your baby step. You have started to walk. And in that moment, my life with them as teachers in a school began. I stopped being a lab animal and started to be a student.
And did you, we've got 60 seconds. Was it because you understood and they knew that, or was it because you relented? You tapped out?
No, it's because I kept going.
Right.
You know, I was crazed with terror, but I still kept putting one foot in front of the other. I would not stop.
Right.
I mean, I reached a limit. I could not go down in those woods with them. But, you know, I took myself every time as far as I possibly could. And that's why they eventually started to treat me the way they do. I mean, I'm miles beyond that now with them.
Let's take a break right here, Whitley. When we come back, I want to start understanding how you did continue to connect the dots and, of course, eventually write the supernatural. Our guest tonight, Whitley Strieber. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Stay right there. More with Whitley right after this.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Hello, Fadernauts. This is Jimmy Church, and I'm introducing New Pharma, a company whose products are based on science. Human function based on the endocannabinoid system, or ECS. New Pharma firmly believes in this science, and their research indicates that support of the ECS provides the beneficial effects for a healthy lifestyle. New Pharma's science includes relief capsules for pain relief, sleep capsules, which are natural support for occasional sleeplessness. Foundation is support for your ECS, and Fit capsules support your active lifestyle. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B for a 33% discount on all of their products. Or visit newpharma.com for all of the knowledge on the science. That's GNUpharma.com. Go Beckley Tappy.
Hi, I'm Matt Ray for U.S. Gold Bureau. I cover the market daily. No matter how strong it gets or what long-term predictions say, you can count on one thing as certain. There will be another crash. It will affect your assets. And when it happens, Wouldn't you rather be 2 weeks or even 2 months ahead of the curve? Well, Wall Street insiders have been quietly converting their assets into gold for the last few years. Now it's your turn. Buying gold and silver is easier than buying stocks with the U.S. Gold Bureau's Investor Guide. It's free, and you learn how to buy precious metals in or out of an IRA or 401k retirement plan. Your investment's shipped directly to your home and is 100% insured and guaranteed. You control your investments and shelter them against the stock market, politics, and unknown threats. Act while your dollar is still worth something. Call U.S. Gold Bureau, 800-885-GOLD. U.S. Gold Bureau, 800-885-GOLD, 800-885-GOLD. Call today.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
All right, welcome back to Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Whitley Strieber. And what we are doing is trying to tell the story about how the chain of events led to the writing of the Supernatural. And Whitley, I have to actually say this, and it's pretty strong, but there are lots of books out there that document people's experiences, whatever they are, whether it's E.T. or Ghost or near death or fairies or parallel worlds, interdimensional. Okay, we have lots of experiences like that. They're all documented, but nobody has been able to try to explain what is going on and help us understand what is going on. You chose to take that path with the Supernatural. But but to do that, you've had to have had your own experiences and explanations to help to explain it that way. So, what happened for you to decide to take that path? Because that's the one that nobody's done.
What happened to me was way back when I had eliminated every other possibility, I was left with only one, and that was that these were intelligent beings of some kind that were marching to a completely different tune than I was. They weren't supposed to even exist,
right?
Let alone be hanging out in my woods and coming in and taking me out of my house in the middle of the night. And I wanted to understand. And not only that, it didn't take me very long. I had been working in something called the Gurdjieff Foundation at that point for 15 years. And I knew a lot about ancient spiritual initiatory practices. And these were not fun. I mean, these were serious. People died during these initiations all the time in the old days because it was about tempting death, really seriously. And I thought to myself, there's another way of looking at this. It is initiatory because it completely stripped away everything that I was before it happened. And I guess that's part of what got me going into the woods. And part of it is like, if you put a snake and a mouse in a terrarium with a little mouse, the mouse is going to get very, very still. He's going to try to get so still that the snake can't notice him. But he is going to be real interested in that snake. And I was real interested in this snake, probably at some level for the same reason. And I also had a wife behind me who was going for it. I mean, she was absolutely fascinated. I said to her, you're not the one going out in the woods at night. And she said, no, I'm not. and she meant she would not. And, she was really interested, and she read the book. She changed the title of the book from Body Terror to Communion. And I said, why should it be communion? And she said, because this is really what it's about.
Right.
It's about a communion, and this is what you're doing. What you're doing when you're going out there is trying to commune with whatever they are. And, I really respected her abilities and her intelligence, and I kind of let her guide me, in this, and I've never been sorry about that. She always did what Annie thought I should do was usually right, always right. I don't think she ever made a single mistake. She never made a single misstep in all the years she worked on this with me. So, yeah.
Yeah, and if one domino falls, right? One thing that shows the world, okay, this is what's going. Then all of the possibilities and all of the questions that are out there, they're all going to be interconnected, and everything will be revealed to everybody. But we need that one domino to fall, and certainly the Supernatural, the book, has the ability to push that first domino over, right?
Oh, yeah, because the other thing about the Supernatural is it's not just me. First of all, I've had so much happen to me since those days, and there was so much I would not say in those days, that most of what I do say in the book is new, that people never heard before, these stories, most of them. And there's also another factor, and that is that this professor from Rice University, who's an expert in modern myth, Jeffrey Kripal, became interested in me, and we became friends and close friends. And he decided that that we would write the book together. I would write an experience, and he would play off of it from an academic standpoint, not scientific, because we science is our God, and we're constantly looking to science for the answers. But science can't answer these questions because it hasn't got any. There's no there for science. But a guy like him, an expert in mythology who knows all of that backstory that Jacques Vallée thinks is so important, he's got a whole incredible perspective on this that's just never been brought forward before. And that's why people are. That's why this play between him and me is why it's got 75 or something 5-star reviews on Amazon, and why it has done so well. And it's I might say that's the paperback. It's out in paperback is just beautiful too. And the subtitle of it now is Why the Unexplained is Real. And it is real. And, the skeptics will say, well, this is just anecdotal. Anecdotal means a single experience that can't be studied. That's not the truth. The truth is there's thousands of experiences, and now all those letters that Anne cataloged and gathered are at Rice University, Jeff's university, in a the universities collected them, and they're collecting along with the papers of Jacques Vallée and a lot of other people in this field. So it's very studyable. It's studyable by social scientists, by all kinds of different sciences. It's accessible. All it takes is courage. And I wonder if they have that.
You know, all skeptics experience what we experience. They just don't want to admit it because of their skeptic buddies. That's the truth.
It's a little club. I mean, they got to get out of the club. And there's a real big club out here. It's called reality. And they need to get out of the little club of fantasy land where the material reality ends where they think it does, because it doesn't. It's bigger than that. It goes on and on. There's levels of reality that we've never touched yet.
That's right.
There is no supernatural that is separate from reality in any way. It's all part of reality. All of it. It is studyable.
Exactly. And about 6 months ago, I started to talk about the reality of Silicon Valley and how those guys up there, those very rich dudes, are talking about a binary world, the possibility that we could be living in this giant, artificial reality, and this is all fake. And the reason why they were talking about that, and I'm sure you know this, but their work in quantum computing. And the way that quantum computing works, quite frankly, is the multi-worlds theory, and that qubits, quantum bits, are using other quantum bits in a parallel world, in infinite, right? The parallel worlds go out there, and as they turn on and off, so do the other ones going to the left and to the right in infinity, and make these computers very, very powerful. Now, they've accepted the fact that this is what is going on, and they are able to develop this hardware and this technology to move forward in quantum computing. But if what they are working on is real, and it is, then therefore parallel worlds do exist. Now, that is what is causing all. Now, if this continues, if science continues in this direction, Whitley, all of this reality that we are talking about, right, the different stages of it, is real. And it will it will shut the skeptics down.
Well, because they're hampering progress. Science is always, and it's in the nature of science. There's nothing wrong with this. Nothing wrong with this. Always has a frontier of the measurable. And beyond the tendency of the average mind in science is to say that there's nothing beyond that frontier. It takes an Albert Einstein or a Galileo, somebody like that, to say, wait a minute, that's just a frontier. There's other stuff out here. Let's go take a look. And we're at another frontier right now. And there's no Galileo or Einstein who has showed up really to dynamically redefine the frontier. But there are lots of people like you just described who are going beyond it. And I have a scholarly paper, a scientific paper that I just got yesterday. It was sent to me by a prominent astrophysicist who is speculating, and I hope you're sitting down, folks, this is a serious scientist, that stars may be conscious based on certain effects that we see that cannot be explained any other way that we know of. So it could be that we are actually looking at a universe that is operating in a completely different way than we have imagined. That consciousness isn't something that kind of starts vaguely down in the plant world and rises and rises and rises until the human, which is exquisitely conscious.
Right.
There are other kinds of consciousness here, some of them living differently in space and time, where they may have ideas that, we might have an idea that takes 3 seconds or 10 seconds to form. They may have an idea that takes 1 million years to form, which to them is like 10 seconds.
I like that thought.
Yeah, I mean, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like that thought. And if that is indeed the case, then everything is connected. Period. Yeah. Period.
And the visitors, they blew my mind. They actually just blew my mind in the sense of I started out a tight-ass little skeptical, arrogant kid, and now I'm a little wider ass than I had then, I guess.
Not much.
And I am open. But, I still have that innate skepticism. That will never leave me, Jimmy, because I just, I got to cut the cards at some point in everything. I just have to.
That paper, and you just got that yesterday, but for you to suggest, and you did it right at the front of this show tonight, and I loved it, when I discussed the title of the Supernatural, and your reaction was, no, Jimmy, the natural world is actually a supernatural world. That's the end of it, right? Well, yeah. That paper vindicates that statement.
Exactly. And, we can study all of this. We're not incapable. And one of the things that keeps happening, and you see this among a lot of people who are involved in this, that the visitors must be much smarter than we are. And I alluded to this a few minutes ago. I don't think so. I think that we're really, really smart. I think we are ourselves multidimensional beings. I'm not so sure that all of the so-called visitors aren't human. That some of them, I wouldn't be too surprised if some of them are human beings in other forms. Lots of species on planet Earth have more than one form. And lots of species have very different infantile and young forms than they do adult forms. Tadpoles and frogs, caterpillars and butterflies. There's quite a number of them like that. What if we're like that too? I mean, the way we devour our planet would mean we're probably the caterpillars. but maybe there's another level. And I'll tell you something. Here's a fascinating story. We got a couple minutes here. Yeah, I can tell this in this time.
Sure.
This is one of Laurie Barnes' stories. Laurie is one of the great close encounter witnesses because she has such a great sense of humor. She's so brilliant and so way up in the air and grounded at the same time. Her head's in the stars and her feet are right down there on planet Earth. So anyway, this is about 1954. Her husband is, they're performers. Her husband is out on a gig at night, doing a piano gig somewhere. She's in bed, she's pregnant, and she's lying there in bed reading, about 11 o'clock, when she notices out of the corner of her eye movement beside the bed, which concerns her because she's supposedly in the apartment in Queens alone. She looks, and there, standing there, is about a 3-foot tall, really horrible looking little dark blue man with a line of them behind him. And she's horrified beyond words. He proceeds to reach out and touch her arm with his gloved dark blue hand and say, "Do not be afraid. We're not here for you. We're interested in the girl child you're carrying." Now, you could not come up with a scarier thing to say to a pregnant woman under those circumstances in this universe.
Never.
So naturally, she was horrified.
Of course.
And he says, "Why do you fear us?" And here it comes. Here it comes. She says, "Because you're so ugly." He then says to her, "My dear, one day you will look just like us."
So, and this
was she talking to another human form. Does the caterpillar find the butterfly terrifying?
The thing is, and when I first read this and heard this from you, and it's been a long time now, I have always equated that moment to death. And that is the suggestion that is what is on they are, in a form of what is on the other side as death. And that is how I've always interpreted.
Some of us end up in that form. I'll bet you my bottom dollar.
Right.
And I guess that's where Laurie's headed.
I know, right? Right.
She was a real glamour queen when she was young. She's pretty aged now, but still a beautiful soul. But she's going to have to get some getting used to if that's the next form she's going to be in.
Yeah, I know. And for you,
you're going there, Jimmy.
You know I am. And for you, is that a possibility? Are you okay if that would be what we eventually are, or possibly one of the things that we could be? Are you okay with that? Is that death?
Let me put it this way. If we have eternal life, thank God it's an adventure. Because if it wasn't, it would be the next place you would go would be madness, insanity, because you couldn't get out and you didn't want to, you couldn't bear to be, and you couldn't stop being. You're just there. You're trapped.
Right.
And I don't feel trapped. I feel like there are many, many, many levels to go in, many directions to go in, and we know very, very little. And I don't think anyone at any level knows enough to feel trapped. And maybe that's what the universe is really all about. It is about the adventure.
Okay, let me do this before the break. If we walk into the woods, and I'm okay with this now, Whitley, because I've had a couple of experiences that have opened up my eyes a little bit. But if we go into the woods and experience the magic that is, you're alone. You go into the woods and you experience this, and you come back out of the woods and you go to your family and you go, you know what? Fairies are real, right? You know what I mean?
Listen, people said that all the time in the past.
That's what I'm saying. I'm okay with it now. It's a weird thing for an adult like myself to say, but it's weird, but I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with it too, because, we just changed their names. Now they're aliens.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly where I'm going.
There's such fascinating, we got a couple more minutes, fascinating things in this world. In parts of Bavaria, there are stories of the kobolds, the little elusive dark blue figures that live down in the mines. And parts of that part of the world are honeycombed with tunnels, too small to have been made by human beings, that now are empty. And you have to wonder, maybe once they lived among us, hiding in tunnels and coming out at night. And maybe they still do.
Right. And why is it that not everybody, but most have the predisposition of dismissing that and not paying attention at all? They would rather live in a two-dimensional world where they don't question or wonder or want to discover anything.
Part of it's fear. People are scared. And people like to be entertained too. And, in order to be entertained by this, there's two ways to do that. You open your mind to it and accept the adventure, or you dig into the demon deal and you think to yourself, well, it's demons, and listen to this guy, he's demon haunted, and, I better just sit in my house and watch Cheers reruns rather than I might end up demon haunted myself.
Right. And they're okay with that. That boggles my mind.
I'm not okay with it.
No.
I'm going to be out there in the dark. That's where I belong.
It is. I want you to answer this really quick. Somebody just posted this. You know what? I'm not going to go back and read it directly. They wanted to know, let me look at the clock. Okay, we have 2 minutes. Do you equate religion and aliens now?
Equate them?
Yep.
Well, 2 minutes to answer that question.
I know, right?
Listen, this is intimately concerned and connected with the human soul. Intimately. And so is religion. But I don't see them. I wouldn't expect to be given communion by a gray. Let me put it that way.
Okay. Do you think that on other planets, of which there are billions, do you think that they are going through the exact situations we are here now? Is it the same everywhere?
I think that intelligent life at this level is rarer than we realize. I think there's a smattering of it across the universe, but it's not prolific with it.
Very interesting.
And when we come back, I can tell you exactly why I think that and why I'm pretty sure I'm right.
Okay, well, that's interesting because
we're rare. We're rare birds. There's not a lot of this type of stuff going on because it just takes. It's too unlikely. Too unlikely for it to happen.
Therefore, do you think that we were placed here? Then, if it doesn't,
I would be amazed if we had not been enhanced, and I can get into exactly when I think that happened and how it happened.
Very interesting. Okay, let's do that right after the break.
I know a lot about that.
Let's take that up right after the break. Our guest tonight, Whitley Strieber, and that Whitley. We've got to talk about the new book with Anne, too, as well. And as discussed today, young man, we were going to run out of time. We do it every time. So we'll do our best after this break. Stay with us, everybody.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station. Salt Lake City, Utah. Van Buren, Arkansas.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on the smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Whitley Strieber. This portion of the broadcast is brought to you by, proudly, River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Just use the promo code F2B blend when you order. It's that simple. Just go click on the banners over at jimmychurchradio.com. Okay, Whitley, back to one of my favorite subjects that we started to dip our toes into is us, right? We just appeared here. And if you know, I don't know if you know this, but Darwin's famous trip ended today when he arrived back in England, right? Back in 1836, and which led to the writing of The Origins. But if you subscribe to Darwin, then we shouldn't even be here. We wouldn't be here for another million years of evolution, right? But we just appeared. Upright, correct, with humor, thinking, creativity, laughter, speech, it's just overnight. And I just think we were placed. I really do. I think somebody either dropped us off here or altered some DNA.
Well, it's a very specific thing that happened. And it happened about 40,000 years ago under the following circumstances. A supernova, a star, exploded. And at approximately that time, the first wave of energy from that explosion swept through this solar system, including planet Earth. And it fried all of the large creatures off over a swath of Earth. It's when all of the big creatures in Australia died out because they were living out in the open. They couldn't hide. They could, they were grazing animals, and they were irradiated, and they died off en masse. Human beings saw this strange light in the daytime sky, like a second sun, and also at night. There would have been no night for a few days, and they hid. At least enough of them hid to where they survived in these places. But then, at the same time, it irradiated most of the world less severely, but it caused a flood of mutations, including a very particular mutation in the brain of a certain type of human being. That is the brain of what we call Cro-Magnon men. The part of it that controls language expanded dramatically. And these people, over a period of 10 or 12,000 years, as this mutation spread through the species, through the population, began to be able to speak in much more complex ways than ever before. And the Neanderthals were left behind because they could not speak in such complex ways. The Cro-Magnons began to be able to teach each other and educate each other, and their stone tools erupt in a great variety of different shapes and sizes, beautifully made, while the Neanderthal stone tools remain very simple and coarse. And then soon the Neanderthals are gone, and there's nobody left here but us. Then, 30,000 years ago, we start to do things like paint these remarkable paintings in caves. And that takes a lot of organization. And we begin to form into tribes and societies. And mankind begins. Now, was it chance? Or is the guy that wrote that paper right? Is this a conscious universe? Did it touch us? Did it touch us?
Specifically, us.
Yeah, us. And what about Ezekiel? And, you listen to Ancient Aliens, and some of that is probably, who knows what it really is. But something like Ezekiel's wheel. I'm sorry, but can you think of anything that you have never seen before in any way or ever heard about? And the answer is no, you can't. No one can. I can think of a starship and something, but what I can't think about is something I have never known. And Ezekiel could not have known anything about rockets or flying craft of any kind.
Anything mechanical in the air. Anything
Nothing.
Nothing.
Or the Vimana aircraft and all of that elaborate stuff that comes in the early Indian literature. Those are things people saw, not things that they made up and imagined.
Right.
The Eurocentric imagination, which assumes that, if it's not from the Anglo-Saxons or the Germans or the French or the Italians, it's probably just, some crazy primitive imagination. Those days when we had that perspective on the world, and have got to end. Those people were brilliant, and they saw they described what they saw in the world. Or the Egyptians, hieroglyphics. I know a good bit about hieroglyphics. I'm fascinated by hieroglyphics. I've been studying them for years. This is a much more sophisticated language than the linear text scripts that we use. Hieroglyphics have 3 levels of thought in them. They have the linear level, like on the Rosetta Stone, and like English or Greek or any modern language except Chinese, which is more pictographic. They have a pictorial level, which works in terms of visual puns relating to the natural world around the Egyptians and giving the words more resonance and significance because it relates them to the different energies of the animals that are part of the hieroglyphic. And then there's, I believe, a 3rd level, but we can't know this, that has to do with color and the way colors were used and juxtaposed in these words. Now, when you read something like that, you read that successfully with a very big, sophisticated, complex mind. And I'm sorry, they weren't simple, primitive people. They were in many ways more advanced than we are. And if you look at the Great Pyramid, that has to be true.
It has to be. And, this is the other thing that we don't understand. When they were not only writing it, but when they were reading it, there's 3 or 4 or 5 different things that are being said at the same time, and they were absorbing it all at the same time. It was. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's coming at them, and they
sure do.
Yeah, they're reading it in 3D. We are only interpreting it with numbers or names or sounds because of our own 2D text and flat pages, the way that we perceive language and writing today. You look at hieroglyphics, and that's a whole nother thing. We are talking about a 3-dimensional, multi-dimensional way of communicating. It's not a linear way of doing it. And that's the only way that we did our best to decipher it to begin with, right? And to go to the next level, we have no concept. That's how smart they were.
They were really very smart. Well, like in the Pyramid of Unas, the earliest pyramid text, the earliest religious text we have, someone was asked about religion earlier, the earliest religious text that we have. And parts of it are about something that they called Taniter, the serpent that lived in the spine, that we now call Kundalini, and the 7 serpents that surrounded it, which we now call the chakras. And Taniter was transported to India and became Tantra. So much of modern religious thought comes from Egypt. And an amazing man, an astonishing man, Moses, who had one of the greatest ideas in human history, and he came out of Egypt with it. And it probably started with Akhenaten. It was the idea of the single, at first, solar god. And later, this incredible thing happened. Moses began to say that this God was invisible, could not be seen, and therefore, alone among all of the temples of the ancient world, the temple in Jerusalem's Holy of Holies was empty. We used to make the Romans laugh. But that God is still with us, because that God has been growing and changing with us all of these years, precisely because he is not codified into a statue or frozen into a statue somewhere. That God is within us and part of our spirit and our imagination. In other words, it's a real God. It's a relationship. A relationship.
What's interesting with that is the Egyptians, which clearly is not discussed today. Everybody just wants to talk about Dynasty 1 or Dynasty 0, and that's the clock in 3000 BC. But if you go to Edfu, if you go to the Temple of Osiris, and you go to the King's List on the wall, it does start at Mene, right? It does. We know that. But that's the physical side. They also talk about the first day, the first times, the beginning of it all, which goes back thousands and thousands of years before 3000 BC, where they are talking about the creation and the intelligence and the gods that were there. But nobody wants to talk about that today. It's very fascinating to me about the history before all of that. And it's right there. Moses talked about it, and it all goes back. And Moses hung out in Egypt. We all know that. It's a pretty fascinating story, but nobody actually wants to go back because the history is hidden.
Yeah. But, there's a lot of things you can do. There's a lot that, I don't talk about much. I'm beginning to talk about it a little bit more. There are people called travelers, and it's an interesting community who can leave their bodies I'm not a real good traveler because I only get taken out. I can't get out on my own. So if you don't bother to be jealous, folks, and say, oh, I'd love to be able to do that.
Right.
I would too. But let me tell you, I've been out a few times, really out, and that pyramid, the pyramid at Giza,
right?
That is an interesting place to go when you're out of your body. And I'm not going to say why, because I want people to discover it for themselves. As you find yourself, if you're a traveler, and I'm sure there's some travelers listening to this, go there. See what happens. Be interesting.
Do you think, Whitley, that you were chosen for this, or do you think this was accidental? You just backed up your car?
I know what happened. I know exactly
over.
what happened.
What happened?
Well, Ann told me this. I'll go back to that day. There was a period of time right after I had sort of, probably about a year later, after I had sort of gotten used to the idea that they were there, and they were starting to come up to the house at times and stuff. And that I had a brief conversation with one of them, not a physical conversation, and I didn't see who it was, didn't see anybody, but it was obviously a conversation of sorts, and sort of me kind of talking in my head and also vocally, because I'm not used to having conversations where you do not talk. And the other side was talking just in my mind. But it was a give and take. And I asked, why did you come here? And the answer was, we saw a glow. And for years when I would tell this story, I thought, I would say, and so they must have seen the glow of cities and stuff, and they came and see. That wasn't what it was. Annie, I figured it out from Annie after she died, because I'm in contact with Annie. Annie and I are still working together, in fact, and we'll talk about that, I guess, in a few minutes. But anyway, in those days, I was sitting and I was doing what I called the sensing exercise, which is a Gurdjieffian practice, and I'll practice in many different meditative disciplines. It's a type of meditation where you put your attention on your body, on your physical body, and on the way your body feels. And this is it seems really simple. It's nothing to it. Nothing much happens, but it's incredibly powerful, because what it does is, among other things, you can be seen in other levels of reality. And when I started doing that out in those woods, when I was doing it in the city, there's probably hundreds of people in the city doing it. And so they would see, all these little lights of these people doing this. Then all of a sudden, here I am way out in the middle of nowhere in these woods. And, there's a few people around, but nobody's doing that except me. And there was one little guy glowing down there. That's the glow they saw. And that's why they ended up in my life. Because they came to investigate that, knowing that somebody who was doing that might be able to interact and communicate with them. Because I had the basics of the language. And that type of meditation is the basic language of communication with them. That's where you start. And if you're not there, there's people that say, well, we have to meditate, but they don't know what to do. And, they take your money and say, well, okay, UFO is going to show up, and it actually will show up very often.
Right.
And then, we have to meditate, but they don't actually know the practice. They don't know what to do, and so it doesn't really work.
Let me ask you, Whitley, I have to ask you this. You and I have talked about meditation an awful lot, and I know that you do it every single day and at night and so forth. But the first time, take me to the first time where you got into the zone, because that's an epiphany. That's a life-changing event. Was it by accident?
No.
It wasn't.
I was taught how to meditate this way. You do the sensing exercise by a member of the Gurdjieff Foundation called Joseph Stein, who to me is a sacred being, because all of this started with Joe and his own mentor, William Siegel, both in the foundation for many years when I knew them. Both passed on now. But, and you can Google Gurdjieff Foundation and find their website. And if you want to get involved, you can. It's not hard. It is hard to do, but it's not hard to get involved. You can give it a shot in your life. Why not? In any case, he taught me this practice, and I began to do it in May of 1970. And one time, it must have been about 2 years later, I was going to the foundation on Thursday nights and doing this pretty much every night at about 10:30 or 11, as I have been all these years, 50 years now. And one night, I was sitting there, and I wanted to get up so badly. The thing about it is, at first you think, oh, this is really cool. I'm doing something incredibly cool. Something's going to happen, because we're consumers. We want something out of our work. If I do some work of some kind, I want to see some results. But in this work, the results don't happen like that. It's not, you don't get an immediate, no angel is going to land. But suddenly I kept fighting myself to not get up, to continue. And the resistance just ended. And my body was different. It was more part of the universe. The barrier between me and the conscious reality in which we live had become less. That was the first.
When it happened to me, I've only had it happen once, and it was recently. But what I didn't dig about it was the lack of control. Right? It just got me. I was I don't know how to put it into words, but I couldn't stop it. Right? I couldn't stop it. I got sucked in. I thought I was just participating with everybody else in this meditation, and it was all cool. And in a few minutes, I'd be off doing something else. And wow, and it was pretty powerful. I do want to say this before the break. 10 minutes ago, it was released by the Associated Press that Tom Petty of the Heartbreakers has passed away here in Santa Monica, California. And there you go. And it went back and forth today. I understand, everybody out there listening to me now, that the media went back and forth. It was announced, and then the announcement was retracted. And everybody has been confused all day long. But there you go. His spokesman for the band through Associated Press has announced that Tom Petty has passed away from a severe heart attack that he suffered yesterday at his house in Malibu. And there you go. Rest in peace, Tom Petty. Where you know what, Whitley, where do you think Tom is right now? Do you think he's listening to us as we speak?
He's still here,
right?
And he will be for a few days,
right? So he's listening to us. What can he expect? What advice can he give to Tom right now?
Oh, listen, people come up to me all the time in that state. And you'll find if you go to the Monroe Institute where they do a lot of this type of work, there's a whole course on how to help souls that are still in the physical. The Tibetan Book of the Dead, which I used when Annie died, has a whole lot about this. And what you do, and it's not, I can tell you right now, it's not going to be necessary with Tom Petty. It was with another celebrity who died recently, an entirely different man. I won't mention his name because he is stuck here. But if they're stuck here and they show up in the life of someone like me who sees these people, the thing you got to do is to get them to turn around. because they're looking in the wrong direction. The direction they need to look in is an entirely different direction. It is the direction of the light. And once they turn around, they're gone. But sometimes they don't turn around, and sometimes the light's too dim because of the lives they've lived. There's just not enough of it there. But I can tell you that he cut up a lot, but he also did a lot, and I know that he's gonna get out of here pretty quick. He's probably, the way it happens is the same way it happened with Annie. She got out of her body, and at first she was right here and she was talking to me, and she couldn't get a response. And she's learned an immense amount since then, because she's intentionally still turned toward this world. She could turn toward the light, but she's intentionally turned toward this world. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, but I don't have the feeling that he's going to have any trouble at all.
No, I think he's going to have a pretty easy way through things. I feel a happiness in my heart when I talk about him, and he probably has plenty of things that but we have to remember, it's real hard for human beings to do evil. You have to work at it. The idea that all these little sins that you used to dream up in the medieval times and so forth, and 40,000 years in purgatory for eating meat on Friday or whatever it was, it's all just imaginary. Yeah, George.
The master of the key, in my book, The Key, he said it very clearly. He said, sin is denial of the right to thrive. Yeah. And that is something that it takes a real genius of evil to do, like a Hitler.
It always reminds me of George Carlin. He's got a list of 10 things that you're not supposed to do. And if you break one of these 10 things, if you do one of these 10 things, you will burn forever.
I loved that when I was a kid. I used to purposely eat hot dogs play hooky and eat a hot dog on Friday. It was mortal sin. And I would stand there at the little hot dog stand eating that hot dog and thinking, if I die right now, I'm going down.
But God loves you.
I'm telling you, those were the best hot dogs I ever ate in my life, and I have to thank the Catholic Church for that.
There you go. Let's take a break right here. When we come back, we're going to do a little overtime with Whitley. We knew this was going to come down because we're going to talk about the new book that he has written with Anne. Whitley, stay right there. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Oops, I cut myself off. I'll be right back, and we're going to talk about this new book that Whitley has written with Anne. And I know what you're thinking. What do you mean with Anne? We'll let Whitley tell you all about it right after this. Stay with us.
Here, and you are listening to my boy Jimmy Church on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter,
but listening to Jimmy Church will.
So you went to dinner last night, you had your favorite pasta. Ugh. Or maybe you had a heavy, spicy meal and it left you. Ugh. Get the tea.com. Maybe you mowed down a huge steak and your plumbing is all plugged. Ugh. Get the tea.com. Our super strength tea will take care of your occasional. Ugh. It's all organic and non-GMO. Get rid of. Ugh. We have so many great supplements, but our super tea is number one. GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of fade to black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
I'm Matt Ray with America's First News. We all know if you're planning a trip, you should shop and compare, right? But why endlessly search the web when you don't have to? Flight Services helps you find the lowest possible airfare. Talk directly to a travel pro right now for the best deals available. Their travel pros have additional discounts not found on websites, and Flight Services provides 24-hour customer service. Call toll-free 844-845-9944. That's 844-845-9944.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129 and use the promo code JCRTWS and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Teppy.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. What an extraordinary show tonight. Whitley Strieber's our guest. Got to do a little overtime. We all knew that this would happen. We would run out of time. But Whitley's gracious and he loves this audience. And I want to say with Whitley listening to me right now, without his comment, that when we talked about the show, actually, no, wait a minute, Whitley, I want to correct myself. You and I were just talking, and you told me about this new book that you've written with Anne, and I stopped you then and said, okay, that's it, you're coming on the show this week. That's what it was. And so when you described this to me, I immediately said, this needs to be heard, and I don't want to hear anything else about it. I want you to share it with the audience. So when you say that you've written your next book with Anne, what are you trying to say to us?
Well, I'm trying to say that she's not gone. When Annie died, first of all, let me backtrack a few seconds. Anne had a near-death experience in 2004 when she had a brain hemorrhage and nearly died. After that, like many NDEers, she was no longer afraid of death at all. Not at all. And she got to a point where it was obvious. She had, in 2013, she was diagnosed with brain cancer, bad brain cancer. They expected her 6 months to live, but we did so much with nutrition, and we did all the protocols the doctors called for, and we used Rick Simpson oil, a cannabis oil, and nutritionist, and we got the tumor completely stopped against all the doctors did a good job. I mean, they were very good doctors at UCLA, and we did things too that I think, as they said, we'll never know what's doing it. But in fact, the tumor's not moving. Unfortunately, the weight of the tumor in her brain, and they got most of it out, but there was 15% of it that they could not get out. This is the thick, hard material. It doesn't belong in any kind of delicate place like a brain. Began to cause her vascular system to collapse. And she was dying. And it was a very conscious thing. It wasn't something that happened suddenly. It happened over a period of about a week, and she knew it was happening. And we did it together. We did it together with her passing on and me being right there by her side. And the first thing that happened is that she had lost consciousness. And one of the caregivers who was here, it was in the living room, and suddenly said, Anne just told me she wants to die in red pajamas. And this woman jumps up and she literally runs out of the house because, Annie could die any minute at that point. Goes to Nordstrom's, it drives over there, buys a pair of red pajamas, comes back. We get my wife's poor little old broken body in those red pajamas. Another hour passes. I'm in the living room in the dinette area with my kids, and we're eating supper, and suddenly I hear Annie say, Whitty, I'm dying right now. I run into the bedroom. I lie down beside her, and I say, goodbye, goodbye, and I put my hand on her heart, and I can feel her heart under my hand beating. I say, goodbye, goodbye. Her heart stops. And my whole life stops. And I feel as if I have been dropped into an infinite well of grief. Then about an hour later, suddenly a friend calls. And she says, Whitley, I just had the weirdest thing. I feel like Anne is trying to tell me that I should tell you she's all right. Is she all right? What's going on? This woman is sort of psychic.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, she died an hour ago. And I thought, how could this be that she would just... And I thought maybe it was Anne. Maybe Anne is still here in some way. And a lot went on after that. But then more happened. A couple of days later, Trish and Rob McGregor, who are on Dreamland on my show a lot, had this thing happen. They knew Anne had passed away, and Trish was writing a blog about Anne when suddenly there was this flash and this huge explosion in their house. And they jumped up and ran around the house looking for something. And there was nothing there. And they thought it was Anne. They felt like it was Anne trying to say that she was still here. And it went on like that. The next thing that happened was another friend, a few days later, called me. I was sitting on a bench in the mountains above Palm Springs. I'd been out there with my kids, just trying to chill out a little bit. And I was sitting alone on this bench, and I was talking to Annie, and I was saying, do you still exist? If you could, show me some kind of a sign. And suddenly my cell phone rang way out in those mountains. I answer, and it's Claire Henry, William Henry's wife.
No, Claire, yes.
Yeah. And she says, Whitley, I just had this strange thing happen. I had the feeling that I needed to call you, that Anne was telling me that I should call you and tell you she's all right. And then I thought, thank you, honey, because, I might be skeptical, but I'm not stupid. And that didn't just happen like that. That was too much. Then later on, I remembered back in the 90s when we had been working on the communion letters, and she was saying, death is not what we think it is. This is something else. We've got our ideas about it, but this is not really what it is.
Right.
And we said we were going to make a plan. I didn't think about this until about a year after these things happened, because a lot more happened. It'd take me an hour to even begin to explain it all. I remembered we'd made a plan that the first one of us to die, if possible, would come back and communicate with the other one indirectly through friends, not directly. No mediums.
Right.
Only through friends.
Right.
And this was a plan we never told anybody, and I didn't think about it until a long time afterwards. I remembered it.
Of course.
Because I put it aside. I hadn't thought about it.
Absolutely.
But Annie was doing it. I thought, my God, Darlie, you're doing it, aren't you? And from there, it developed into a living, ongoing relationship. Right now, there are two of us, and we are sharing one body. I wear both wedding rings to symbolize that. And we wrote a book together. And it is a beautiful book. It is a book about love and about how to live in a completely new way that nobody has ever thought about before. Because nobody is whole until they are in communication with both sides, and it is a deeply personal thing that belongs to everyone alive and everyone on the other side. And that's what our book is about. Now, recently, have you ever had Dr. Gary Schwartz on your show?
Yep.
Yeah, well, a very cool guy, in my opinion. And he and Annie were terrific friends. They just loved each other. And Annie had mediums tested with him. And so I telephoned him after I finished the book, and I said, Gary, I would like you to read the book in hopes of getting you to write a blurb for it. And he said, I don't want to write a blurb for this book. After he read it, I said, I want to do more. I want to write a foreword, and I want to do a double-blind medium test of Anne, and we'll see what comes of it. And so he did. And it was astonishing. Anne showed up to this medium, but she did it in a way to defeat even my skepticism, which is always there under the surface. You may not hear it in my voice. But
no, exactly. Whitley, I have to ask. I know that you needed to stump the panel at this point, right? You need to prove to yourself.
I have to.
Right. So what did you do?
And she knew that.
Right.
And so one of the things that Gary said the medium had said, he said it was very strange. One of the things that came up was a Greek fisherman's cap. And I nearly dropped my teeth. The medium had contacted Anne on a Tuesday. On the previous Sunday, this is just a couple weeks ago, I had been with my grandchildren at in a store where they were selling, among many other things, Greek fisherman's caps. And my grandson had wanted one very badly. And I had thought to myself at the time, his grandma wants him, his nana wants him to have that cap. But his dad said, well, your birthday's right around the corner, so we're going to have to wait. And I could feel her being kind of pissy, thinking, too strict, should have gotten him the cap.
Right.
And then 2 days later, the medium picks this up. There is no way possible No one, Gary Schwartz, didn't know where I was. No one could have picked up on it. No one but the medium heard Annie talk about that. And to me, that's conclusive. I can't say that she didn't do that. She did do that.
Well,
it's not happening at the moment. It's
right.
Trying to, but she often will get involved. Like on my show, she'll get involved, and I can sort of channel her. I'm not a good channeler. I can't channel. I wish I could channel people like Einstein, but I can't do it. But I can sometimes channel her, and like last night, I had the most powerful. It was like she was right there, and it was making all my grief come back, because it was like I could hold her in my arms, but there was no one there. That's how it felt.
Right.
It was so powerful. And this beautiful, she had as a diary on Unknown Country on our website. And there have been a couple of times when I've channeled diary entries, and that happened last night. And I put it up there on the the thing, and it's just beautiful words. I mean, my wife was a wonderful essayist, and she still is. And now she's, as far as I'm concerned, this is a diary called Being Outside of Time, and she talks about why we're three-dimensional beings. And she says it's because we're inside time and we can't see time. She said, but I can see time. And that idea of seeing time is amazing. And of course, if you were a fourth dimensional being, which the dead are, you would see time as some kind of a structure. So I can't imagine what it must look like, but it's amazing, all of it.
Whenever you need to be centered, has she dropped a book on your head yet?
Oh, she used to hit me in the head with books all the time, and I'm sure she'd like to, because she considered me very thick-headed about a lot of things. But where this started was fascinating. I was still struggling with all of this and very much in confusion about it. And I went to one of William Henry's things in Nashville. He has these, he's a wonderful. William and Claire are such cool people. They take people on these marvelous tours, and they have beautiful events in Nashville at a place called the Scarrett Bennett Center. And so he was having an event, and I was so sad and lonely, and I thought, I'll go and be with William and Claire. They're so warm, and this will be good. And I went there. And it was exactly what I hoped it would be. William spoke beautifully, and all the other speakers were wonderful. And there were a lot of nice people there, too. And during one of the breaks, this nervous woman comes up to me, and she says, Mr. Strieber, I don't know how to tell you this, because this has never happened to me before. But it's really a little weird. And I said, look, I'm Whitley Strieber. You cannot weird me out. So go ahead and say it, whatever it is.
Right.
So she says, well, I just heard Anne say something to me. Do you have some kind of a special chair? And I do. I have a place where I meditate. And she said that she can see you when you're in the chair. And immediately my mind went back to that story I told a little while ago about we saw a glow.
Right.
And I realized that's it. The glow of meditation, the glow of the sensing exercise. That's what when she can see me, is when I'm doing that. Now, the next thing that happened, well, of course, I started meditating very intently.
Of course.
At 11 o'clock at night, when I always did. Then, lo and behold, at 3 o'clock in the morning, a few nights later, I'm awakened by having one of my toes shocked, like it had been stuck into a light socket. And I thought, holy moly, I've got gout. I never get it the first time.
Right.
I think that's one of the things that the other level enjoys probably about me, that they can be sure that I'll fumble the ball every time, at least the first time. So it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and I turn on my phone and Google gout, and I realize, well, you don't have gout, but you also don't have an electric blanket, and there's no electricity in the bed, so here we are. And I go back to sleep. The next night, somebody's pinching one of my nipples like hell. And this time, I leap out of the bed because this is fingers pinching my nipple in my apartment alone in the middle of the night. And, you notice this. There's nobody there. So I immediately think the visitors. And I realize it's the same exact time, 3 a.m. And I think, of course, they are facilitating the communication between me and Ann. Because at 3 a.m., most people around me are asleep, and I'm going to be the only glow, just like I was out in the woods all those years ago.
Right.
And it's going to be easier for her to find me. And by God, ever since then, I have been meditating at 3 o'clock, at 11, and at 3 for that reason. I get up every night at 3. And for a long time, they would help me. They would wake me up. Right. And they had fun doing it. I can assure you, they came up with all kinds of funny, innovative ways of doing it.
Noises.
And among them,
yes,
I was at a country house in Texas, and I was thinking to myself, do I really need to do this at 3? Is this, does vacation count? And suddenly, at 3 o'clock in the morning, the doorbell rings.
Right.
Way out in the middle of the country. And so I think, yep, I need to do it at 3 o'clock every night. So I got up and I did it.
Yeah, vacations aren't a hall pass. Right.
Then the next morning, the lady I was there with said, what was that bell in the night? I said, that was the doorbell. Somebody rang the doorbell. She said, we don't have a doorbell. There was no doorbell. The house has no doorbell.
I wanted to ask you this, Whitley, as we wind down. And again, thank you for this conversation tonight. It's always great. But as you were writing the book with Ann, you are you're inputting the information. You're writing. And do you remember it, or is it more like ghost writing at that moment?
No, she would take over the body and do her writing. I would see it and understand it, but it wasn't something that I could actually change, I don't think.
Right. It was like ghostwriting then.
It was a little bit. It wasn't like automatic writing. It wasn't that intense. I was conscious and aware that it was happening, but it was very surprising. She would say things wonderful things, a lot of just extraordinary stuff would come in that I'd never thought of before in my life, about what it's like on the other side and how this is. And it's a very sophisticated vision of the other side. Annie was really brilliant in this world, and in the next, she's even smarter. And she is really, really something. And the book is, I don't know when it'll be published, because I'm going back and forth with my publisher right now, and my editor's dying to buy it and publish it, but my sales have not been very good lately, and so the management is hesitant to buy it. And if they don't buy it, in one way that'll be good, because I'm going to publish it myself, and I know how to do that. I can do a beautiful job of it, and it'll be out in a few months.
Right.
If they buy it, it'll probably be out in about 6 months. So I don't know, but I would like them to buy it, because it's a very prestigious house. Penguin Books, and I'd Tarcher Penguin, and I'd like them to buy it, and I hope they do. But they have to look at the numbers, and like Supernatural, why don't people buy Supernatural? It's an incredible book, and people were some of the early readers were completely blown away by it, and people who do buy it are just blown away. You should read the Amazon reviews, and yet it just doesn't really, it just has not taken off. People just think, I think they think, oh, Whitley, I know all of his stuff. I've read Communion, and they don't know the half. I've been a long way. I'm way far beyond that by now.
Right.
And I got a whole lot to offer, and I'm going to keep offering it as long as I can.
Thank you so much, Whitley. What a great conversation tonight. And everybody, go visit unknowncountry.com. The links, all of Whitley's links are over at jimmychurchradio.com, and you can go and check it out. Whitley, we'll get up the Amazon links for the Supernatural for you right now. But I'm very excited about this new publication with Anne. And I just want one last comment from you before we say goodnight. When you go back and you read the galleys and the stuff for the new book, how does it make you feel to see your writing and then hers and the difference, the feel? It's two different people.
Well, I've been a writer a long time, and I can tell voice easily.
Right.
And it's two different voices, and that amazes me because I did the physical writing, but Anne's voice is Anne's voice.
That's what I mean. It must be.
It's amazing.
It must be
it's
amazing.
Really something.
Thank you so much, Whitley. And we'll talk later on this week. But again, thank you so much, and thank you for staying up late with us tonight. And you've got 1 hour to your next meditation. Thank you, Whitley.
That's right.
All right. You have a great night, Whitley. Thank you so much.
Buenas noches.
You got it. Whitley Strieber, everybody. Again, all of his links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Of course, Strieber.com, unknowncountry.com. Go and be a subscriber over at Unknown Country. And the new book, The Supernatural, over on Amazon. And with that, I've got to actually depart and get out of here. We actually got this before the network cut us off tonight. A couple of things. I will comment further tomorrow about the state of things that are over in Las Vegas. I'm not going to jump on any conspiracy bandwagon at this point. It is right now our hearts and thoughts are with everybody over in Las Vegas and what went down yesterday. And with that, yes, there is an official statement from Tom Petty over at Tom Petty's official Twitter. And, of course, the Heartbreakers and Tom Petty and their websites. And we'll get those links up there, too, as well. Again, thank you, Whitley. Just an absolutely wonderful conversation tonight. With that, I will depart. This will conclude another episode of Fade to Black. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark T. Kovar, LJ3, Renee Jonas. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. Thank you to Whitley Strieber and everybody that was hanging out in the chat rooms and Twitter tonight. Amazing conversations going on. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2017 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can follow Whitley at Whitley Strieber. Tomorrow night, Larry Holcomb right here. Until then, everybody be safe. Go Beckley Teppy. All right, Whitley. It takes me a few minutes to shut everything down and get the streams off.
Yeah. Well, that was good. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a great